we have a lot of things going on in the country right now. First off, we got a presidential primary going on, and second, which is major news every day. And the second thing is seems like the state of Texas decided they had enough. We're going to stop these people from coming into our state, and right now, with the amount of states that are together, and Chris can verify this for me, but including Texas, there's 26 states that said they're going to help out Texas. We're going to stand with Texas. And, of course, last week there was a Supreme Court ruling. Am I getting too far ahead of us, Chris? But
no, go ahead,
but there was a Supreme Court ruling that said that that Texas wasn't allowed to stop these people with razor wire. Okay, did I have that correct?
Yeah, it's the most bizarre thing. There's 9 on the Supreme Court, 3 very left-wing judges, 1 very wishy-washy moderate, John Roberts, who was given to us by George W. Bush, unfortunately, and 5 supposed conservatives. Well, every so often, 2 of those 5 conservatives, for whatever reason, join the left and Roberts and just basically going against us, and I can't even figure it out. This time it was Amy Coney Barrett, joined with the 3 left-wingers, the 1 wishy-washy moderate, and that gave them a 5-4 victory, saying Texas cannot use barbed wire to protect their borders. I mean, this is absolute insanity, and, what is the deal with this? And so if you look at Article 4, Section 4, we have to base this on fact, not feelings, not emotion. This is what the Constitution of the United States says. We need to get back to the Constitution, by the way, because people are just making up their own rules and their own laws and claiming, I have this right, I have that right. If something is not specified in the Constitution as a right, it's not truly a right. It has to be part of the Bill of Rights in order to be a right. And states' rights come from the 10th Amendment. They're in the Bill of Rights. Okay, so Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution says, the United States, this is the federal government shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, notice not a democracy, and also it says, and then it shall protect each of these states against invasion and on application of the legislature or the executive, that's the president, when the legislature cannot be convened, or the governor also could be the executive of the state, against domestic violence. Bottom line is that the federal government will support the states. That's what Article 4, Section 4 is saying. The federal government will support the states' right to defend themselves against an invasion and protect their sovereignty. Clearly, Biden isn't doing that. So then, since he's not doing that, the federal government, the states have the right, constitutional right, to defend their boundaries. The governor of Texas is doing that. Biden sued. It went to the Supreme Court. This should have been a slam dunk. For whatever reason, Amy Coney Barrett went rogue and joined the 3 left-wingers, the 1 wishy-washy moderate Roberts. Now it was a 5-4 decision. So now Texas is fighting back and saying we're not going to stop defending our boundaries, our borders. And as you said, a bunch of Republican governors are supporting them also.
Well, so Chris,
now they have. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I guess to cut it, let's cut to the chase.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to get to the idea. So back in 2018, before the election, 2019 actually, the border was pretty much. The Mexican government was actually keeping people on their side of the border when they would come when they come here. Okay, that was when President Trump was president. Okay, so we went through an election. Okay, there was several things that happened. We did we know what caused this, and it was in 3-4 states with the election. And the I'll let you explain it a little bit better. But there was in 3 states: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Do I have them 3 states right?
Are you talking about the 2020 election?
Yeah.
There were 6 actually that changed the outcome of the election, and 2 more that were found to most likely have gone to Trump. Were pretty darn close to going for Trump. Biden barely won them without the mail-in ballots. Trump probably does win them. That would be Virginia and Minnesota.
So in Pennsylvania, what caused this? I believe it was a Senate bill, the 241, or what most people refer to as Act 77 after it came out of the House, with the unsolicited. You can just ask for a mail-in ballot. Am I correct? Am I correct about that?
Well, yeah, Act 77 changed voter law in PA. Now, some people argue the way Act 77 was passed was unconstitutional because it did not come from the consent of the people. The Constitution of Pennsylvania states that if you're going to change the Constitution of PA, it must go to a referendum and the voters must vote for it. So the argument is the voters never voted to change our voter laws, which is changing the PA Constitution, and that's why some people are saying that it's unconstitutional. But what it did is it massively increased the likelihood of mail-in ballots. And someone might say, well, what's the problem with that? Let me explain how this all came about. During the 2020 election, early 2020, because of COVID, we had the lockdowns, the masks, we had businesses being shut down. Of course, now the CDC, Center for Disease Control, is admitting that none of that was necessary. Never needed masks, never needed social distancing, never needed lockdowns, schools and businesses and churches, but they did it anyway. Again, now you're getting into unconstitutional territory when you start shutting down churches. Another discussion for another day. So that's why states started massively increasing mail-in ballots, because they figured, well, because of COVID, people can't vote, so let them vote by mail.
So wait, Chris, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's other states, but if I'm right, I'm pretty sure I am on this. Act 77 was enacted prior to COVID.
Well, you're right on the cusp there. I believe Act 77 was October of 2019. COVID was just starting to begin to be a problem in China in the summer. So I don't know if PA, in Pennsylvania, the legislature was thinking about COVID. I don't know. But COVID had already just started. It was in its infancy. But for the other states, they definitely used COVID as
the excuse or the...
Yes.
Okay. Or as
the justification.
Yeah, the fact.
Right. It was October 1st, I think they passed Act 77, or it was sometime in October.
So
was that when they started
whether or
talking
not
about the cruise ship?
COVID came into the equation is another story.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
Is that when they started talking about the cruise ship? I just remembered my husband listening to a podcast, and he always referred to the cruise ship as the Princess Disaster, and it was the one that they wouldn't let dock anywhere, because that's when was whenever they were the talk. Remember Princess Disaster?
Actually, I think they ended up docking in Australia. They took them to an island off the
and like
Australian,
the whole ship was sick or something.
They took it off the island until they could clear them. But anyways, that's another story for another day too. But anyways, this is where we're at with this act.
Yes.
This is where we're at with this Act 77, and right now we're in a voter integrity fight for this right here in Fayette County, Delaware County, Berks County, Lancaster County, Adams County now. And so we're looking at all these different things, and there was only 2 legislators that voted against it, and they were both from Lancaster County. And right now, there's no way to fix this without completely deleting it. There's no tweaking it. It has to be.
Well, the authors of Act 77 and also the Senate bill were our local representatives.
Yeah.
It was Patrick Stefano and Ron Warner that were the sponsors of the Act 77.
Well, let me say this. Why? Because everyone wants to know, well, what's the problem with mail-in ballots? Before the 2020 election, okay, there were all kinds of indications that mail-in ballots have a problem. First of all, there's not enough oversight. Then there's no chain of custody between the voter and the ballot and then the ballot box. So much can happen in between that can be fraudulent. Back in 2005, Jimmy Carter, the very liberal Jimmy Carter, joined with the former Secretary of State James Baker, and they both issued a report saying that, I quote, the mail-in ballots, I quote, increase the risk of fraud, and that they were dangerous. So even they were saying that back in a few years later, 2008, the New York Times, which is not exactly a bastion of conservatism, said in one of their articles about mail-in ballots, error and fraud are at issue as absentee votes rise. So they are already saying this is bad and that this is dangerous. NPR, another liberal left-wing organization, was saying in the early part of 2020, mail-in voting is fraught with potential problems. So everyone knew this. In fact, we have a list of Democrats who said they didn't like mail-in ballots, but then they did a reversal in the 2020 election. And so that's what happened. So Pew Center on the States, the Pew Center on the States analyzed state voter registration in 2012, and they said approximately 24 million, one out of every 8 voter registrations in the United States, are no longer valid. And therefore they shouldn't be cast, but they're being cast by mail-in ballots. So we're seeing studies after studies proving this is dangerous stuff. In the 2020 election, the Pew Research Center said 58% of Biden's voters nationwide were by mail-in ballot. Wow. 58%.
Well, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
How is an absentee ballot more secure than a mail-in ballot?
You have to show.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. I mean, there are problems with absentee ballots. The difference is the absentee ballot has a little bit more accountability, but it can still be used as fraud also. But absentee ballots, you have to, one, request to the Board of Elections the absentee ballot in advance and say, this is why I need it. You know, I'm going away, going out of town, I'm in the military. You have to justify why you're getting it. You only have like a certain period of time, 30 or 40 days to fill it out. So, but it is open to fraud. But the mail-in ballot, there's no request. The government in PA sends you a mail-in ballot application without you even requesting it. So they could be sending it to your house. You could have moved, and someone could fill out a mail-in ballot in your name, and you've left that house.
Yeah, because they don't verify the signatures.
Well, there was 160,000 that were unaccountable for in the 2020 election in the state of Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's no request, there's no verification, there's no voter ID, and now our current governor, Shapiro, who does not have the authority to change our voter law without the state house and Senate approving it, he did it anyway. He said that we are not going to try to match the signatures of the mail-in ballots. Well, you're really opening the door to fraud there.
Well, we know for a fact that didn't happen in Fayette County because we got witnesses that on election day that they didn't verify not one signature.
And I would imagine. I would imagine the electronic sign-in sheet would also help aid in that skewing of the way the votes are, because they're getting immediate results of who did or did not vote in certain specific precincts when they close the ballot. I would imagine they would have access to it rather than physical books that somebody from that precinct would have to bring to the county election bureau.
Well, here's what has to happen, and Chris will agree with me. With the mail-in ballots, they have to be counted at the precinct. They can't be counted at a centralized
like they do with the absentee.
They have to be counted at the precinct.
So that those people
that way them people know that
Billy
whatever,
Bob Joe.
yeah, Billy Bob Joe
From down the street.
voted in Newell, Pennsylvania, with a mail-in ballot, and they know that, and they can verify that he was there.
There's more likely to correct any kind of fraud.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can't happen then also, it's less likely to happen on a massive,
Right.
any kind of a massive scale.
Yeah,
I think because, I don't think there's that many people that are involved, but if you localize it to the precincts, then the likelihood of finding somebody who is going to go along to get along is probably a little more difficult. Cause
well, that too. But
You know?
I mean, like I said, the main thing is if the law would have required a signature verification, that would have corrected a lot of this.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, remember in 1993, Bill Clinton and the Democrat Congress passed the motor voter law. And when you go into the DMV to get a license, they are not required to ask if you're a citizen. Now, think of the problem. If you're getting a license, the DMV in every state is not required by law to ask if you're a citizen. Match it up with all the illegal immigrants coming across the border. You see how easy it is to register someone to vote who isn't even a citizen, and now you have the mail-in ballots. And so you say you have someone who crossed the border from another country. They register to vote when they get a DMV. They don't speak good English, so they never show up to the polls to vote. But their name's on the registration.
Oh.
So one of these mail-in ballots, which was never requested, could fall into the hands of anybody who just fills out the name and the vote that goes with it in the name of this illegal immigrant who never should have been put on the registration in the first place.
Right.
But did get on the registration because of the DMV doesn't have to require a citizen, doesn't have to require you to say if you're a citizen. So you see all the layers
Oh my
of
gosh.
problems with this.
Yeah, it's like peeling an onion.
Right. And then you flash back to the Texas situation, and here you are. You circle back around, right? Like the border situation, now this.
And the Democrats and George Soros are pumping millions of dollars into Texas to try to win Texas. So you match up illegal immigrants with the DMV not having to ask you if you're a citizen,
Right.
and then you get on, you're registered to vote illegally. You shouldn't be registered because you're not a citizen, but you are because of Bill Clinton's bill that he signed in 1993. And then you have the mail-in ballot. No one knows if this ballot is being filled out by a citizen or not. There's no voter ID. There's no any kind of way of tracing this. So you could potentially have millions of illegal immigrants registering to vote,
Oh my gosh.
and someone casting that vote in the name of an illegal immigrant, even though it's not them filling it out,
Right.
because they're filling out the mail-in ballot, which has no accountability or oversight.
And this has been like wheels in motion for this has started since 1993 with
Oh
Bill
no,
Clinton.
this started, and not in October. This started way before that. But like I said, this was planned. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
But could you
well-
imagine waiting that long for your plan to come into action?
It'd be very easy here in Pennsylvania for the local GOP to fix, to address. I mean, they don't want. If you look at the state's website, the GOP website, it very clearly states on there this is one of their big successes. That the mail voting, that they did away with straight party voting, which was probably one good thing, but you got all dumped all this bad stuff on it.
Right.
And Tom Wolf was the governor then when they brought this to the forefront. And I remember some of the newspaper articles. I happened to be out in the Harrisburg area at the time. There was a lot of criticism by Republican House members out there that thought that it would be abused locally by Philadelphia specifically, but yet it still went through as a bipartisan bill, and here we are. Our local legislators won't even take. They know people locally don't like Act 77, and they won't even admit that there was anything wrong with it. And they said, "Well, there's some problems. It needs some tweaks," but yet no legislation to try to offer those tweaks or those corrections.
Right.
I mean, this is 2024.
Yeah.
It'd be very easy to fix these things and put them to bed.
Well, it's real easy. You just don't let the governor have a budget. You just don't let the governor, because that's
Well, you start doing things like mandatory signature verification.
Yeah.
Send them back to the precincts. They have not made one amendment. The law's so vague on this thing that it's up for interpretation. They haven't tried to address it or clear. Now, that's something that they could work on, that they could actually fix, but they won't.
Well, check this out. Since you're bringing this all up, Philadelphia has been known well for decades. It has been known well for decades. Let me clarify this. It has been known very well for decades that Philadelphia is one of the cities in America that has an enormous amount of voter fraud. There's several cities that have the most amount of voter fraud, and Philadelphia is within probably like the top 5. So we all know that's where a lot of voter fraud occurs. Now you match up the unsecure mail-in ballots are not requested, that you don't have to go through the Board of Elections. You don't have to show a voter ID. You don't have to justify why you're getting them. They're just showing up without you requesting them. You match that up with the problems in Philadelphia, the illegal immigrants, the DMV allowing anybody to register to vote who's not even a citizen. Now you can see how the claim of voter fraud in all of these states becomes, especially PA, becomes more likely. There were 6 states that determined the outcome for the 2020 election, and they were razor thin. Now, if 58%, this is the number that I gave you, 58% of all Biden votes came by mail-in ballot. 58%. That's almost 60%.
Wow.
All you have to do is mess with the mail-in ballots, with the DMV and all these problems that I mentioned, illegal immigrants. Mm-hmm. You just take 3 or 4 or 5% of the vote. Mm-hmm. With mail-in ballots being cast illegally or in the wrong way. That's enough to change the outcome of the 2020 election. So you had Michigan, Wisconsin, you had Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona. Those were the 6 states. And then there were 2 other states that weren't quite as close, but they were pretty close. They could have gone for Trump, Virginia and Minnesota also. So there were 8 states that could have and should have gone, any number of them could have gone for Trump. And you take out the problems with the mail-in ballots, he probably wins all of, if not most of those 8 states.
So, Chris, where we started from, we're gonna have to close up real quickly here. But where we started from was Governor Abbott is standing his ground down in Texas. It looks like there's 25 more governors that are going to help him out with National Guard, and I don't know. Let's hope that let's hope for an outcome of this, that where the federal government steps in and says, you know what, he's right. I mean, because I don't think he's going to blink.
I don't think you can look for that from the federal government, for a simple fact. You do have Republicans and Democrats that want to work on the problem, but because it's so political, they're both just going to point the finger at each other. Nothing's going to happen.
Kind of. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Me and Chris.
That's why the governors felt the need to go to this extreme.
We've spoke about this, haven't we, Chris?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it isn't. It's a political thing that it's a political toy that comes up every 3.5 years. It seems like, and it could be fixed very easily. And
people need to go in person to vote, but you have to vote.
Yep, you have to vote.
You have to vote. That's the most important thing.
I think even now you have to also put pressure on your elected officials to make sure those votes count. I mean,
right.
What we're going through,
Hold them
just trying to
accountable.
get the CV cast record votes and get some kind of accounting. So this is important. If they did it in 2020, why wouldn't they do it even more aggressively in 2024?
I feel like there's.
Well, let me say this, guys. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt anyone.
That's okay.
Let me just say this before we get off the call. Another problem with Act 77 is if a mail-in ballot application shows up in your house and you fill it out, but then change your mind and go to the polls instead, you get the ballot, but you don't fill it out. You get the mail-in ballot sent to you, but you don't fill it out. You don't send it in. You decide to vote on Election Day. They make you fill out a vote, not on a normal ballot, but on a provisional ballot, which can easily be not counted. So there's all these problems.
Yep. Because you're supposed to bring the mail-in ballot to the election,
and they're supposed to spoil it. Yeah,
they're because my husband actually did that that when it was originally voted in, he was going to vote in with a mail-in ballot, and then that's what he did. He went through the process.
Hey, Chris, it was nice having you. We'll have you on again. This is gonna continue. We're gonna try to keep this fight keep this fight here in Fayette County and keep moving forward. Hey, keep safe and thank you for calling.
All right, buddy. Thank you.